Hi everybody, tonight I want to talk about worms and understanding them and explain them a little bit. You can catch pretty much any fish that you can catch with a real worm, you can catch with an artificial worm, except you use artificial worms and you get extra options for using them, and you also don't have to worry about your bait dying and being limpless. So you can have smaller worms like this lunker hunt or this 4-inch yum dinger. You can catch all sorts of small fish with those. You can catch panfish, bluegill, crappie, perch, and trout. And then on the bigger size, about 3 or 4 inches and above, you catch all sorts of predator fish. You catch your bass, your pike, your walleye. And obviously you would size up your worms depending upon the size of fish you want to get. So let's get into the different types of worms you got. This is a trick worm from Zoom. This is a color called green pumpkin, and you can see it is meant to imitate just a night crawler. And you can see I have it rigged up right here with a special hook. It's called a offset worm hook, where instead of being a straight shank, it's offset slightly to give you advantage of going through the body. So I have a 3/0 mustad hook on here. So one of the reasons why I chose a 3/0 is I ascribe to the belief that a good starting point for choosing hook size for a worm is you take the size of your worm in inches and you divide that in half, and you use roughly that size worm hook or any kind of hook, including EWGs. So you have a 6-inch Zoom trick worm here, and I have a 3/0 hook on it. I have a 5-inch Yamamoto Senko here, and I have a 3/0 on that. You know, they don't make a 2.5/0, so I sized up. This right here, as I already mentioned, is a stick bait. So you have stick baits where they look kind of like sticks. This is the original stick bait. This is the Gary Yamamoto Senko in the original 5-inch variation. Like I said, it's 5 inches. I got it rigged up with a 3/0 EWG hook, or extra wide gap. This and a 3/0 and a 4/0 for your standard 5-inch stick bait or Senko is pretty much what you want when you have it Texas rigged like that. There's I found an article some time ago, and I'll put it in the description below. Mr. Yamamoto, who does really well with his own, or at least he did, I don't know if he still fishes anymore, who does really well on the tournament trail, recommended a 3/0 rather, curly tails. This is a Berkley Power Bait Power Worm, I believe, 7.5 inches. So this I have on a 4/0 worm hook. I believe this one's an owner worm hook. And these are great, and they have this awesome ribboning tail effect. So this is a great bait to work as like a split shot rig or by itself on a Carolina rig. This worm here, it doesn't have a lot of salt content in it like, say, the Senko does, so it's a little bit more buoyant and stays in the water column. And so it's kind of great for Carolina rigs where you'll have it just slightly up off the bottom. Culprit makes curl tail worms. Pretty much any plastic manufacturer makes them, and they can be 6-7 inches like this one, all the way up to 10 inches with a huge ribbon on them to get a lot of action. Popular colors for them are red shad, green pumpkin, watermelon seed like this one. Bright colors, they're really great for if you got clearer water. And then you got your more finesse applications, what fishermen call finesse applications. So here is a Strike King KVD Drop Dream or something, I don't remember. But this, I have it set up on, this is a VMC swivel shot. It's specifically for fishing with a drop shot. You see this kind of eyelet thing here, and the top goes to your main line, and the bottom here goes down. And you have your drop shot weight at the bottom, and you just fish this, and you let that little spade tail work and do its thing. And so it's more subtle application being finesse. And then here I have a 4-inch. It's also a Senko stick bait style, but you can see it's an inch smaller. This is a bait made by a company called Yum. They're a cheaper, more value-minded brand. But here I have it wacky rigged. I'm using a plastic O-ring to preserve the bait a little longer, and I have it rigged through the middle, pretty much straight through the middle, right behind the egg sac, or what's to replicate the egg sac here on this worm. You can see I have a weedless size 2 Wacky Rig hook on it, and that lets me work it through the weeds, and the hook doesn't catch on it, and then when a fish comes by and bites it, you can see that that wire comes off. This is a Gamakatsu size 2 Wacky Rig. I like that size. I like size 2 for Wacky Rigs, and this is size 2 also. When you Wacky Rig things and nose hook them, that whole length of the worm divided by half, it doesn't really apply. And then of course you have your tiny, if I didn't mention already, you have your tiny Lucker Hunt river worm. This works great. Caught small fish on this. Panfish love it. Crappie love it. Even smaller bass. So let's talk about ways you rig them up. You see I have standard old Texas rig here on this Senko. This is where you take a hook and you go through the nose and you come out and you come through the body. You can hide the point of this in to the body, or you can leave it out like I have right here, depending on how much weeds or cover you have. The advantage of having it outside of the body here is it's very sticky, right? And you see how my finger's hitting that hook right there. Whereas if you take it and you texpose it, as it's called right there, you know, it's not as grabby, but you don't have as much skin there, or much plastic to come out of the worm to hook the fish. So you can do the Texas rig 2 ways. You can do weightless, like this, where you just kind of let the natural weight of the lure keep it down, or you can do it weighted. So if you see here, I have a bullet weight. And you use that to get it down the water column. It'll fall down the water column nose first, and you can run it slack on the line, or some guys can have it attached to here, stuck, where they can have it pegged. You can buy Texas rig pegged weights, or weight pegging, I don't remember what they're called, pegs. I never bought any. I just use toothpaste if I decide to peg it. There's advantages and disadvantages to keeping it free. Keeping it free and letting it slide up and down like this gets a lot of action out of the lure. But when you peg it, it gives you a lot of sensitivity on the bottom. Also, you got similar to Texas rig here, except instead of using a EWG or extra wide grab hook, here I got the power worm, and on the trick worm I have just a regular offset worm gap hook. The reason why it's called an offset, you can see right here, it kind of offsets, whereas on a regular old-fashioned fishing hook, it's just a straight shank with a curl down to the gap to the point. So on this one, on the trick worm, you will notice I have a split shot out front. It's called a split shot rig, and what that does is it puts weight on the front. It keeps it at a set distance, however you want it. On an actual split shot rig, you can keep it farther out. I tend to keep it farther out, but for the purpose of making this video and keeping it in the frame on my cell phone here, I have it only about 3 to 4 inches out the front. So it's kind of like a mini Carolina rig, and a Carolina rig being, you know, like I mentioned before, a rig where you get the weight down the bottom and it helps keep your lure up and off the ground, but it keeps you down the bottom of the water column when fish are deeper. And a split shot rig actually helps accomplish that as well. And that's just a few different ways that you can rig them. So in addition, you also have, you can use a shaky head, or there's the Nico rig, which is where you take a wacky rigged worm like this, and you take what's called a nail weight, and you can punch it into the bottom, and then it just kind of pulled along the bottom like so with that weight on the bottom. You also have things called shaky heads, where you would nose hook the worm all the way down to the shank and then bury this in the body, kind of like a Texas rig. And then this sits down on the bottom and it kind of shakes with a spinning tackle or light finesse tackle. As far as other factors for selecting your hooks, it's not just length As far as, you know, this is a 7.5 inch worm, so divide by 2, I chose a 4/0, and this is a 5, and I chose a 3/0, and this is a 3/0, and that's a size 2, and that's a size 2. You also got to look at your girth of your worm. If you notice the stick bait, the Senko is considerably fatter than this small Zoom trick worm. So I have a extra wide gap hook on it, whereas on this one, you know, these are both 3/0 hooks, right? You know, if you see, you can see that. These are both 3/0 hooks, but the extra wide gap is a little bit bigger, and it accommodates that thicker body on the stick bait. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate it. Just like and subscribe if you want to see more content where I describe tackle and test it out and just other things that interest me. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.